Greetings, Wanderer. Like yourself, I really enjoy lore and stories involving the Backrooms. I mean, you wouldn't be here otherwise, right? So to kick off my first dedicated Backrooms video, I've decided to go with the 6 most popular levels. If you like this type of content, please hit that subscribe button for more in the future. Now, grab some almond water, put fresh batteries in your flashlight, and let's begin. Welcome to Level 0, the place where almost everyone's backrooms adventure begins. Assuming adventure is the word you'd use for accidentally phasing through reality and getting trapped in a fluorescent nightmare office from 1998. Level 0 is often called the lobby, not because it's welcoming, not because there's a front desk, and definitely not because anyone is checking you in. It's called the lobby because it's the entry point to the endlessly confusing universe known as the Backrooms. Think of it as the waiting room for existential dread. What Level 0 looks like. At first glance, Level 0 appears deceptively ordinary. You'll find endless yellow wallpaper humming, fluorescent ceiling lights, damp, stained carpet, randomly placed office-style walls and hallways, and it just keeps going. Forever. No windows, no doors that lead anywhere useful, no signs explaining what you did wrong in life to deserve this. Just an infinite maze of bland, corporate purgatory. If you've ever worked in an office building where every hallway looks identical, congratulations. You've basically been training for Level 0 your entire career. The lighting, aka the buzzing that will ruin your sanity. One of the most noticeable features of Level 0 is the lighting. The entire level is illuminated by cheap fluorescent ceiling panels, and they never stop buzzing. Not sometimes, not occasionally. Always. A constant electrical hum fills the air. People who remain in Level 0 for extended periods report that the sound eventually becomes unbearable. Some wanderers claim the buzzing even changes pitch depending on where you walk, like the lights themselves are reacting to your presence. Which is comforting, because nothing says safe environment like sentient lighting fixtures. The wallpaper and carpet. On carpet. On Level 0 is famous for its extremely ugly interior design. The wallpaper is usually described as yellowed, faded stains slightly peeling. It often has a subtle, repeating pattern, though most people are too busy panicking to analyze the decor. The carpet is even worse. It's typically damp, moldy, squishy underfoot, and it smells like a combination of old office building, wet cardboard, something that may have died in the ventilation system. The unsettling part? No one knows where the moisture comes from. There are no pipes, no leaks, just mysteriously wet carpet. Enjoy that. The layout, or lack of one. Level 0 is not just large, it's infinite. The corridors twist and connect in ways that make no architectural sense. Rooms appear where there shouldn't be rooms. Hallways loop back on themselves. Entire sections of wall seem to shift when you're not looking. Mapping the level is basically impossible. Several groups have attempted it, including explorers from organizations like Major Explorer Group, but even coordinated expeditions struggle to chart more than tiny sections. In other words, you're not lost. The map itself is lost. Isolation effect. One of the strangest aspects of Level 0 is that people rarely encounter each other. Even if multiple individuals enter the backrooms at the same time, they almost always appear in completely different areas. Wanderers have reported for hours with no response, which means one of two things is happening. The level is so large that other humans are incredibly far away. Level 0 actively separates people on purpose. Neither option is great. Entities in Level 0. Level 0 is actually considered relatively safe compared to deeper levels, but that doesn't mean it's empty. Occasionally, wanderers report encountering entities such as hounds and smilers. Thankfully, these encounters are rare, which is good, because being chased by nightmare creatures while lost in an infinite office maze is not great for your stress levels. Psychological effects. Level 0 does something strange to the human mind. Extended exposure can cause paranoia, disorientation, time distortion, and auditory hallucinations. Some wanderers claim they start hearing distant footsteps, muffled conversations, doors closing somewhere far away, even though level 0 supposedly has no doors. Again, very reassuring. Supplies, or the lack of them. Level 0 is notoriously empty. There is almost nothing useful here. You won't find food, water, furniture, exits marked this way to safety. The only things you'll reliably encounter are walls, carpet, more walls. Occasionally, small openings may lead to other levels, but these are unpredictable. Some people escape by no-clipping deeper into reality again. Others simply wander until they collapse. So the survival strategy for level 0 is surprisingly simple. Keep moving and hope reality glitches again. Why level 0 is so iconic. Level 0 became famous because it captures the core horror of the Backrooms. It's not monstrous. It's not dramatic. It's just wrong. Everything looks normal at first, but the longer you stay, the more you realize something about the environment shouldn't exist. An infinite office hallway with no exits. Lights that never turn off. A place designed like it once had a purpose, but doesn't anymore. It's the perfect introduction to the unsettling universe of the Backrooms. Because if this is just the first level, things can only get worse. And trust me, they absolutely do. If level 0 is the unsettling lobby where reality politely informs you that you're lost forever, then level 1 is where the backrooms stop being mysterious and start being actively rude about it. Gone are the yellow wallpaper corridors and aggressively damp carpet. Instead, level 1 drops you into a gigantic industrial warehouse complex that appears to have been designed by someone whose main architectural inspiration was, what if Costco, but evil? Concrete floors, pipes everywhere, broken machinery, dim lights, and absolutely no exit signs. Which is unfortunate, because this is also the point where the backrooms begin introducing the concept of things that want to eat you. So that's fun. Environment and layout. Level 1 resembles a massive abandoned warehouse or factory floor. Most areas contain concrete flooring, structural pillars, metal shelving units, pipes and cables running along the ceiling, crates stacked in suspiciously tall piles. Unlike the constant fluorescent glow of level 0, the lighting here is much worse. Industrial lamps hang overhead, but many of them flicker or simply don't work anymore. This creates huge pockets of shadow between aisles and storage sections, and those shadows would be mildly inconvenient under normal circumstances. But in level 1, shadows are less of a visibility issue and more of a something might be standing there watching you issue, which really adds character to the place. The scale of the level, like most areas in the backrooms, level 1 is believed to be enormous, possibly infinite. However, unlike level 0's nonsensical maze, level 1 occasionally pretends to follow normal architecture. You'll find areas that resemble warehouse aisles, loading bays, storage rooms, metal catwalks, maintenance corridors, which might briefly convince you that someone once worked here. But then you'll walk through a door and suddenly find yourself inside a warehouse chamber the size of an aircraft hangar filled with thousands of crates. No forklifts, no workers, no explanation, just boxes. An impressive number of boxes. Enough boxes that you might briefly wonder what they were storing here. The answer, unfortunately, is probably nothing good. Supplies, a rare perk. Now here's the good news. Level 1 is one of the first backrooms environments where you can actually find supplies. Yes, actual useful items. Inside crates or storage areas, wanderers have discovered things like canned food, flashlights, batteries, tools, and the ever famous almond water. Almond water is a strange liquid commonly found throughout the backrooms. It's believed to have mild restorative properties and helps counteract the psychological stress of being trapped in a hostile, infinite dimension. In simpler terms, it's basically the backrooms version of a healing potion, which is incredibly helpful when your daily routine consists of wandering through dark warehouses, hoping nothing decides you look like lunch. Lighting and sound. The lighting situation in level 1 deserves special mention because it's terrible. Some areas are decently lit by industrial lamps, but many sections are almost completely dark. Entire aisles can be plunged into shadow if several lights fail in the same area. And given the backroom's excellent maintenance program, lights fail constantly. But the real highlight of level 1 is the sound design. The place is full of eerie industrial noises. Wanderers often report hearing distant metal clanging, pipes rattling overhead, dripping water echoing through the building, ventilation fans humming somewhere far away, and occasionally, fast footsteps. The problem is that those footsteps usually don't belong to a fellow survivor. Entity activity. Level 1 is where the backrooms start introducing hostile entities on a regular basis. One of the most common residents here is the Hound. Hounds thrive in level 1's dark warehouse environment. They love long corridors, maze-like shelving, poorly lit spaces. Basically, the entire level is a perfectly designed hunting ground. Encounters usually begin subtly. Maybe you hear something scraping behind a crate. Maybe there's a low growl echoing down the aisle. Maybe you hear the unmistakable sound of 4 legs sprinting across concrete. At that point, you have a very important decision to make. And that decision is run immediately. Because while hounds aren't known for their brilliant strategy, they are known for their enthusiasm. And their enthusiasm usually involves chasing humans. Maintenance tunnels. Level 1 also contains an extensive network of maintenance tunnels. These narrow passages run beneath the warehouse areas and contain pipes, wiring, and service ladders. They can be very useful for navigating the level more quickly. They can also be absolutely terrifying because tunnels are narrow, very narrow, which means if something hostile enters the tunnel behind you, your options are limited. Your choices are run fast read in a side passage or accept that this was probably not your best life decision. Maintenance tunnels are therefore considered both a convenient shortcut and a fantastic place to panic. Human presence. Unlike level 0, level 1 sometimes contains signs that other humans have been here before. Wanderers occasionally encounter makeshift shelters, supply caches, or even small survivor outposts. One of the most notable groups operating in the backrooms is the Major Explorer Group, also known as the MEG. Their goal is to explore the backrooms, document its levels, and establish relatively safe areas for new arrivals. Level 1 often serves as a temporary base for their operations because it offers access to supplies and multiple pathways to deeper levels. Of course, building a base in a warehouse full of monsters and infinite corridors is not exactly ideal. But when your other housing options include endless yellow offices, reality-breaking maze, or levels that melt your face off, a creepy warehouse starts to look surprisingly livable. Why level 1 matters. Level 1 is often considered the moment when wanderers truly understand what the backrooms are. Level 0 introduces the concept. Level 1 introduces the rules. The rules being, you are not alone. Some things here want to kill you, and the environment itself is not on your side. It's where people stop wandering aimlessly and start thinking about survival, finding supplies, joining groups, planning routes to other levels. Because once you reach level 1, you've officially moved past the confusion stage. Now you're in the part of the backrooms where the universe politely informs you that getting lost was only the beginning. Level 2 is what happens when the backrooms decide you haven't suffered quite enough yet and relocate you into an industrial boiler room that never ends. Level 2 is commonly known as Pipe Dreams, which is a clever name because the entire place is filled with pipes. Also, because the dream of ever finding a comfortable exit is, frankly, a bit optimistic. Environment. Level 2 consists almost entirely of narrow service tunnels, maintenance corridors, and industrial shafts. Imagine the kind of cramped spaces maintenance workers use to access plumbing or ventilation systems in large buildings. Now imagine those tunnels stretching for miles, branching endlessly, and slowly cooking you alive. That's level 2. The walls are typically made of bare concrete, rusted metal panels, occasionally exposed insulation. But the real defining feature of this level is the pipes. Pipes on the walls, pipes on the ceiling, pipes running along the floor. Large pipes, small pipes, pipes that rattle when you walk past them. There are so many pipes that you might start wondering what exactly this system is supposed to be supporting. A city? A power plant? An entire universe? No one knows. And unfortunately, there's no helpful maintenance manual explaining the situation. Temperature, it's tired in tow. One thing level 2 definitely has plenty of is heat. A lot of it. The tunnels are filled with hot air, likely generated by the countless steam pipes running through the level. Some areas feel like walking through a normal basement. Others feel like you accidentally stepped into the industrial section of a sauna. The heat is inconsistent and unpredictable. You might turn a corner and suddenly encounter a pipe venting hot steam directly into the hallway, which is exciting because nothing enhances a survival situation quite like the possibility of being flash boiled by malfunctioning infrastructure. Steam leaks. Steam leaks are one of the most common hazards in level 2. Many pipes appear damaged or poorly maintained. Occasionally, they release bursts of superheated steam through cracks or broken valves. These bursts can block tunnels temporarily, obscure visibility, or cause serious burns, which means exploring level 2 often involves the thrilling experience of carefully navigating a maze while also trying not to be slowly cooked like a dumpling. So that's pleasant. The layout. Level 2's layout is even more claustrophobic than previous levels. Most corridors are narrow enough that two people would struggle to walk side by side. Ceilings are low, walls are close, and the tunnels twist constantly. Instead of large warehouse areas like level 1, level 2 consists almost entirely of tight passageways and intersections. The result is a maze where every corridor looks the same. Every turn leads to more pipes, and every dead end forces you to backtrack through the same oppressive tunnels again. If you enjoy the feeling of being trapped inside industrial plumbing, this is absolutely the level for you. Soundscape. Level 2 is rarely quiet. The tunnels are filled with a constant mixture of industrial noises. Common sounds include pipes clanking and expanding from heat, water dripping somewhere far away, valves hissing intermittently, metal surfaces vibrating. The echoes in these tunnels travel a long distance, which means sounds bounce around unpredictably. Sometimes footsteps will echo from corridors you aren't even standing in. Sometimes dripping water sounds like someone tapping on metal. And occasionally you'll hear something running down a tunnel long before you actually see it, which is rarely a good sign. Entity activity, level 2, has a reputation for being extremely dangerous, and one major reason is the number of hostile entities that inhabit the tunnels. The most common residents here are hound. Hounds thrive in environments like level 2 because the tunnels give them the perfect conditions for hunting. They can hear wanderers moving through the corridors, follow sounds easily through the pipes, corner prey in narrow passages, and since these tunnels don't offer many places to hide, encounters with hounds often turn into very short chase scenes. Which is unfortunate, because hounds are much better at running through tight spaces than humans are. They also tend to travel in small groups, which really adds a nice cooperative element to the whole being hunted experience. Smilers in the dark. The shadows of level 2 also attract another entity, the smiler. Smilers are creatures that prefer darkness, and level 2 provides plenty of it. Many tunnels have broken lighting, leaving entire stretches in near total darkness. If you shine a flashlight into those areas, you may see something unsettling. Two glowing eyes, and a wide, unnatural grin floating in the dark. That's usually your cue to turn around immediately. Because if there's one thing worse than a maze of steaming pipes, it's a maze of steaming pipes containing smiling monsters. Psychological effects. Level 2 is notorious for its psychological impact on wanderers. The combination of heat, noise, and confined spaces can wear people down very quickly. Common symptoms reported by explorers include anxiety, claustrophobia, paranoia, disorientation, munsation. After long periods in level 2, some wanderers begin to experience auditory hallucinations. They may hear voices echoing through pipes, footsteps behind them, distant banging that doesn't stop. Whether these sounds are hallucinations or something else entirely is still debated, which is comforting because nothing helps your mental stability like wondering if the noises you're hearing are all in your head or right behind you. Why level 2 is so infamous? Level 2 is one of the most stressful environments in the backrooms. Not because it's the deadliest level, but because it's relentlessly oppressive. The heat, the narrow tunnels, the constant industrial noise, and the knowledge that something could be sprinting toward you through the maze at any moment. It's the kind of place where every turn feels like a bad decision, and every shadow feels like it might be hiding something unpleasant. Which, in the backrooms, is usually a fair assumption. Level 3 feels less like a place you wandered into, and more like a facility you accidentally broke into, the kind with warning signs, restricted access doors, and enough electrical equipment to power a small city. Unfortunately, the staff appears to have vanished. The maintenance schedule stopped decades ago, and the entire system is still running anyway. Loudly. Continuously, and it was just enough instability to remind you that electricity is very enthusiastic about killing people who get too close. The moment you enter level 3, the environment shifts dramatically. The carpet is gone, the damp office smell is gone. In its place are metal floors, grated walkways, thick cables running along the walls, and a constant electrical hum that vibrates through the entire structure. It sounds like a giant machine that's been left running for decades with no one around to turn it off, which, conveniently, is exactly what it is. This level is commonly referred to as the electrical station, and the name is not metaphorical. Massive industrial rooms stretch out in every direction, filled with server racks, breaker panels, transformer boxes, and tangled bundles of wiring thick enough to strangle a small car. Some areas look like maintenance tunnels, others resemble data centers. A few look suspiciously like high-security utility facilities. You probably shouldn't be inside. But congratulations, here you are anyway. The lighting situation on level 3 deserves special mention, mostly because it actively hates you. Fluorescent bulbs line the ceilings, but many are burnt out, broken, or flickering like they're trying to communicate in Morse code. Entire hallways can plunge into darkness without warning. One moment everything is buzzing and glowing, and the next moment the lights die completely, leaving you standing in a corridor that suddenly feels much, much smaller. And if you think that's just an atmospheric design choice, think again, because level 3 has a bit of a reputation when it comes to entities. The flickering lights make this level a perfect hunting ground for creatures that prefer the dark, predators that rely on quick ambushes, sudden appearances, and the delightful psychological effect of knowing something is in the room with you but waiting for the lights to go out before it says hello. One of the most commonly reported threats here are smilers. And if you've never encountered one before, imagine standing in a pitch black hallway when suddenly the lights flicker back on for half a second, just enough time for you to see a floating grin and a pair of glowing eyes staring at you from the far end of the corridor. Then the lights shut off again. Now you get to spend the next 10 seconds wondering if it moved. Spoiler, it did! Level 3's maze-like layout doesn't help matters either. The architecture is a confusing mixture of industrial hallways, maintenance ladders, server rooms, electrical substations, and ventilation tunnels that loop around in ways that make absolutely no architectural sense. You'll find staircases that lead to sealed doors, rooms packed wall to wall with humming machinery, and narrow metal corridors that feel more like the inside of a submarine than part of a building. Navigation is optimistic at best. The constant humming of electricity makes it difficult to hear anything clearly, which is fantastic news for anything that wants to sneak up behind you. Add the occasional burst of steam from damaged pipes and the random popping sound of overloaded circuits, and you have an environment that keeps your nerves permanently on edge. Even without entities, Level 3 is still trying very hard to kill you. One of the biggest hazards is exposed electrical systems. Many of the panels and wiring clusters throughout the level are damaged, sparking, or completely unshielded. Some cables arc with visible electricity, crackling across metal surfaces, or dripping sparks onto the floor. Puddles of water are not uncommon in certain maintenance areas, which means one wrong step could result in you becoming a temporary component of the local power grid. And the Backrooms does not offer refunds. There are also reports of entire sections where the electrical output is wildly unstable. Lights will surge to blinding brightness before exploding, machinery will suddenly activate without warning, and occasionally entire rooms will lose power all at once. Again, perfect timing for the things living here. Another defining feature of Level 3 is the claustrophobia. The walls are metal, the ceilings are low, pipes and cable trays run along nearly every surface. In many places, the corridors narrow so much that you can feel the walls on both sides while walking through, which would already be uncomfortable under normal circumstances. But add the knowledge that something might be standing at the other end of the hallway when the lights flicker back on, and suddenly the space feels a lot tighter. There are also server rooms scattered throughout the level, and these areas are particularly unsettling. Towering racks of humming machines stretch in endless rows, their tiny indicator lights blinking in the darkness like artificial stars. The air inside these rooms is warm and dry, filled with the smell of overheated electronics. What the servers are actually doing is unknown. They appear to be running something, continuously, without interruption. For all anyone knows, the Backrooms might have an IT department. Level 3 is popular among explorers precisely because it feels more dangerous than many other levels. The combination of hostile entities, unstable infrastructure, and constant darkness creates an environment where survival depends heavily on awareness and luck. Mostly luck. People who travel through Level 3 quickly learn a few important rules. First, avoid touching anything electrical unless you're absolutely certain it isn't live. And even then, maybe don't. Second, never assume the lights will stay on. If a hallway goes dark, it's usually wise to move quickly and quietly because something else might be using the darkness to move too. And finally, if you ever see a pair of glowing eyes appear when the lights flicker, try not to blink, because it's probably closer the next time the lights come back on. Now for one of my favorite levels, Level Fun, which doesn't have a designation number, but sometimes thought of as a sub-level to Level 4. As someone with a summer birthday growing up, my childhood parties were about as full as the ones you'll find here. Bright decorations, festive atmosphere, suspiciously empty guest list. The only real difference is that in level fun, the party eventually finds you. Level fun is exactly what it sounds like, which should immediately concern you. After wandering through endless beige offices, electrical tunnels, and haunted hotels, suddenly you step into a place that looks like a children's birthday party exploded across an entire building. The walls are covered in bright colors. Balloons float lazily near the ceiling. Streamers hang in long, twisting lines across hallways. Confetti crunches softly under your shoes as you walk. Somewhere in the distance, faint music plays. Not loud, not clear, just far enough away that you can't quite identify the song, which, in the back rooms, is your first clue that something is extremely wrong. The lighting in level fun is bright and cheerful. Fluorescent panels illuminate long hallways decorated with childish murals of smiling characters and colorful shapes. Tables appear randomly throughout the level, covered in plastic tablecloths, and surrounded by small chairs like someone is expecting guests at any moment. There are paper plates set out, plastic cups, sometimes even birthday cakes. And if you've spent any amount of time in the back rooms, this should set off every survival instinct you have, because nothing here is actually meant for you. Level Fun is infamous for its primary inhabitants. Partygoers. Partygoers are entities that resemble people in the same vague way a mannequin resembles a person. Humanoid bodies, limbs in roughly the right places, a face that almost looks normal until you notice the permanent smile stretched far wider than it reasonably should be. Their skin tends to have a slightly yellow tint. Their eyes are wide and unblinking, and most of them wear brightly colored party hats. Because of course they do. When a wanderer encounters a partygoer, the entity's reaction is almost always the same: excitement. Genuine, overwhelming enthusiasm. They wave, they gesture. Sometimes they bounce slightly on their feet, like someone who just heard their favorite song at a party. And when they speak, which they occasionally do, their voices sound oddly cheerful. Too cheerful. Welcome to the party! Now, in a normal situation, someone enthusiastically inviting you to a party might be a pleasant experience. But in level fun, that invitation is less of a greeting and more of a recruitment pitch, because partygoers have one very important goal: expanding the guest list. The exact process isn't pleasant. Accounts from survivors are limited, mostly because survivors are rare, but the general understanding is that partygoers don't simply kill wanderers. They convert them. Eventually, the person who arrived alone and terrified becomes just another smiling host wandering the hallways, eager to greet the next unlucky guest. Which explains why the parties here never seem to run out of staff. The decorations throughout Level Fun are also not as harmless as they appear. Balloons are the most recognizable feature. Bright red, yellow, blue, and green balloons float throughout the corridors, tied to railings, chairs, and occasionally nothing at all. Sometimes they drift slowly down hallways, as if carried by a gentle breeze. If you see one floating toward you, your best option is to turn around and leave immediately, because balloons in Level Fun are often used as bait. A single balloon might lead you deeper into the level. 2 or 3 might mark a hallway where partygoers are waiting. Entire clusters of balloons have been reported blocking exits, creating festive-looking traps that lure wanderers directly into ambushes, which is impressive in a deeply concerning way. The level itself resembles a series of brightly colored corridors and party rooms connected in a maze-like pattern. The architecture shifts unpredictably, but everything maintains the same theme: decorations, tables, and endless supplies of party materials. There are gift boxes scattered around some areas. These should not be opened. There are party horns sitting on tables. These should definitely not be blown. And occasionally you'll find a full banquet setup, complete with food and drinks laid out as if the party is about to start. Which it is. You're just the main course. The music in level fun is another unsettling feature. It constantly drifts through the level, sometimes sounding like cheerful carnival tunes, other times resembling children's birthday songs played through a badly distorted speaker. The volume changes unpredictably. Sometimes it's barely audible. Other times it suddenly becomes louder as you turn a corner, suggesting that whatever is producing it might be closer than you'd like. The worst part is that the music never stops. Ever. Even if you run for hours through different corridors, the faint sound of party music always seems to follow somewhere in the distance, like the entire level is waiting for the celebration to start. Another psychological effect reported by wanderers is the gradual shift in mood the level tries to impose. The bright colors, cheerful decorations, and upbeat music create a strange contrast with the fear most people feel while navigating the back rooms. Over time, that contrast can start to mess with your head. Some wanderers report feeling oddly calm after long exposure. Others describe brief moments where the decorations actually start to feel welcoming, which is, quite frankly, the biggest red flag imaginable. Because the moment you start thinking, maybe this place isn't so bad, is usually the moment a smiling figure in a party hat appears around the corner. Level Fun is widely considered one of the most dangerous levels in the Backrooms, not because it's physically hostile in an obvious way, but because everything here is designed to lure you into lowering your guard. Bright colors, friendly hosts, decorations that look festive instead of threatening. It's a horror scenario built entirely on the idea that something pretending to be cheerful is often far more dangerous than something that looks like a monster. And if you ever see a cluster of balloons slowly drifting down a hallway toward you, congratulations. You've just RSVP'd to a party you're probably not leaving. Level 5 has the unique talent of looking almost normal, which in the back rooms is honestly more unsettling than the levels actively trying to electrocute you. At first glance, it resembles an old hotel that's seen better decades. The carpets are patterned in that aggressively decorative style hotels seemed to love in the late 20th century. The walls are lined with dim sconces, casting a warm yellow light. Doors run along both sides of the hallway, evenly spaced, each with a small metal number plate. If you ignored the circumstances that brought you here, you might almost believe you just wandered into a slightly outdated business hotel. Almost. Because the longer you stand there, the more the details begin to feel wrong. The lighting is consistent, but a little too dim. The air smells faintly of dust and old furniture. The hallway stretches farther than it reasonably should, continuing past where the building's exterior would logically end. And no matter how long you listen, you never hear the sounds you'd expect in a hotel. No footsteps, no doors opening, no distant elevator chimes, just silence. Level 5 is often referred to as the hotel, though certain areas resemble abandoned office spaces instead. In some wings, the hallways branch into rooms filled with desks, filing cabinets, and conference tables that look like a corporate meeting was scheduled, and then everyone simply decided not to show up for the rest of eternity. The architecture shifts subtly as you move through the level. One hallway may resemble a traditional hotel floor, lined with guest rooms and old-fashioned wallpaper. Turn a corner, and suddenly you're in an office corridor with fluorescent ceiling panels and rows of cubicles. Neither setting is comforting. Both share the same unsettling trait. They look familiar enough to trick your brain into relaxing for about 3 seconds before something small breaks the illusion. A door that leads to a room twice the size it should be. A hallway that loops back on itself. A conference room with chairs neatly arranged around a table, facing the wrong direction. The level thrives on subtle distortions rather than obvious danger. Nothing screams, "Run for your life." Instead, the environment slowly convinces you that something is deeply, fundamentally wrong, which unfortunately it is. Level 5 is known for housing several entities that blend disturbingly well into its human shaped spaces. The most commonly encountered are facelings. Facelings are humanoid figures that look almost identical to people, except for one small detail. They don't have faces. No eyes, no nose, no mouth, just smooth, blank skin where all the important identifying features should be. Some of them wear business suits, others wander the hallways in what looks like hotel staff uniforms or guest clothing. They move slowly and generally appear calm, often standing in place as if waiting for something or someone. The strange thing about facelings is that many of them aren't immediately hostile. Some will walk past you without reacting at all. Others may stand in hallways or inside rooms, facing the wall like they're contemplating life decisions that ended very poorly. Of course, this doesn't make them comforting, because it's extremely difficult to relax when you're sharing a hallway with something that looks like a person-shaped mannequin that decided to start walking around. Even worse are the entities known as skin stealers. Unlike facelings, skin stealers actively try to pass as human. They wear the appearance of a person the same way someone might wear a coat, awkwardly, imperfectly, and just convincing enough to fool you from a distance. Up close, the disguise falls apart. Their movements are stiff. Their expressions don't quite match the situation. Sometimes their skin hangs slightly loose, like clothing that wasn't tailored properly. And if they speak, the voice tends to come out wrong, too slow, too strained, as if something is reading from a script written in a language it doesn't fully understand. Which makes sense, because skin stealers are essentially predators attempting a very disturbing form of camouflage. The real problem with level 5, however, isn't just the entities, it's the exits. Doors in this level are notoriously unreliable. One room might contain nothing more than a dusty bed and an old television that refuses to turn on. Another might lead to a staircase that descends for several floors before ending in a blank wall. Some doors lead back into the same hallway you just came from. Others lead somewhere entirely different. Wanderers have reported entering what appeared to be a normal hotel room, only to find themselves exiting into a completely different part of the level, sometimes miles away from where they started. And occasionally, a door that looked promising simply disappears when you try to find it again. Level 5 also has a reputation for psychological effects. Some explorers report hearing distant conversations through the walls. Others claim they see people standing at the far end of hallways, only for those figures to vanish when approached. More disturbing are the hallucinations of other wanderers. You might see someone sitting in the hotel lobby, or leaning against a wall in an office corridor. They may even look relieved to see another human face after so much time alone, but if you try to approach them, they're suddenly gone. No footsteps, no doors closing, just an empty hallway and the uncomfortable realization that you might not be as alone as you thought, or that your brain is starting to invent company, which, given the circumstances, is understandable. Level 5 remains popular in Backrooms lore because it weaponizes familiarity. Instead of bizarre architecture or obviously hostile environments, it gives you something recognizable. A hotel, an office, a place you've probably been dozens of times before. Then it quietly bends the rules just enough to make everything feel wrong. And in a place where monsters can look like people, and doors don't always go where they should, that familiar hallway suddenly becomes a lot less comforting. And there you have it. The 6 top Backrooms levels. Much loved and much feared. If you enjoyed this video, I have a lot planned to change up my content with Backrooms, SCP, cryptids, and other generally spooky topics, and an increased posting schedule. So if you enjoy that kind of thing, please give a follow. You can also look for me on Twitch with gaming stuff, and monthly Freaky Fridays, and regular spooky video reactions. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.